Okay, we're back for another rant of the guru. Hope you're all doing well. So I hope you enjoyed the last video I made. Some of you are curious about internal energy cultivation, like things like Kundalini, Qigong, and how or where do you find this in the martial arts. So we'll kind of continue with that a little bit. You have a lot of martial arts have, well, the internal ones have martial Qigong and Qigong for healing, okay? So they have practices that are for developing the fighting and developing your ability to take a hit, like the Chinese call it iron shirt Qigong, okay? Or the ability to project energy into a target or to hit through a target, and the ability to generate power, which the Chinese call it Fajing, okay? In Silat, we have it, it's called Kilap or Kilat, okay? It's like the lightning strikes or the thunder strikes. So different schools have different methods for this. Then you have the healing side of Qigong, okay, where it focuses on healing and moving energy in the blood, in the body, the blood, healing the blood, healing the nervous system, healing the meridians, the pressure points, the chakras. So some of the Hindu systems, they call it Marma Adi, okay, or Marma. In Chinese systems is the Dimmak, or acupuncture or Chinese medicine, and Tuina massage. And in the Silat, it's very common. They have, Indonesia is very interesting this way. It's a melting pot or a fusion of many methods. You have Taoist methods, Buddhist methods, Hindu methods, Muslim methods that come from the Sufis. Okay, so there's a lot of healing methods that come, if you look at it from the geography, healing methods that come from Persia, that come from ancient China, Tibet, and also methods that come from the old Vedic and Hindu empires and old Buddhist empires. And then they have the shamanism, which comes from animism. The Indonesian shamanism is very similar to some of the things you see out of the African shamanism, and even the shamanism you see all over the world in jungles. It's very, very similar. So anyhow, so some of the systems have these healing methodologies that are derived from these different systems. And for example, in Silat, some systems, particularly like Chimande, they teach a type of massage, a type of bone setting, which is similar to chiropractic work. They teach a method of connecting to the internal pathways. And one thing very unique that I've found in Indonesian Silat healing methods is to connect with the pathway of the bones. They call it finding the inner rivers and then unclogging the inner rivers, or unclogging the inner pathways of the bone and the bone marrow. And that's particularly unique. I have not seen that. Maybe it does exist in the Chinese methods. I've never seen it. But it's very common. I've seen it done by my teacher, Uncle Willem de Toires. I've seen it done by my Chimande teacher, Pak Muhammad. And that involves with connecting with the bone directly through touch, okay? Similar to pressure points and the meridians, except they're looking for the channels inside the bones. It's very powerful and it's very painful. It hurts when they do it to you, but things heal faster. And they use this in Chimande to heal broken bones, or to heal hairline fractures or anything of that sort, or contusions and concussions and things like that. So anyhow, so Silat and the old Silats and the old Kuntao systems have, and they've always had, their method to develop energy for fighting and for defense, to protect yourself from getting hit, and energy for healing, okay? There's also, if you look at energy work and even in these different martial arts, you have energy work that's more yang and energy work that's more yin. You have methods that are both hard and soft combined. So, for example, Uncle Willem de Toires is very adamant on developing the hard and the soft together. And depending on where you are in your training, you may emphasize or focus more on the soft, or more on the hard, depending on where you're at as a practitioner and as an individual. So traditionally in Silat classes, and this is probably why it could never really be commercial, is that you need one-on-one time with the teacher, or at least be in a group small enough where the teacher can give attention to each student appropriately to make sure that the student is learning the methods based and appropriately to where that student is at that current moment in time. So this is why, Silat was always taught in kitchens or backyards or in small groups in small areas, because there's a very tight connection between the teacher and the student to make sure that each student individually grows within the art based on their strengths, their weaknesses, and also their gifts. Everybody has an inherent natural gift. Some people might be, for example, good at kicking, good at punching. Some people might be good at grappling. Some people might be good with weapons. Some people might not necessarily be good at combat, but they need the health aspect of the martial Qigong and the healing Qigong to develop themselves. And again, in Indonesia, the Qigong is not really called Qigong. They call it Sehat or Tenaga Dalam. And there's different methods in there. You have things that are hard, and they're expressed hard to develop a type of energy, which the Chinese call the Wei Qi, which is a protective energy. And then you have things that are soft to protect, to develop a fluidity and to develop a energy that can permeate, okay, or receive and dissolve. There's different details about all this, and maybe one day I'll make a video describing some of this stuff. But anyhow, if you've seen masters that are actually really good at it, for example, my teacher, Uncle Willem de Toires, he can express different types of Fai Jing or explosive energy, and at the same time he can express healing energy. There's different massage techniques, energy techniques to brush the energy, to smooth the energy, and those can be used for healing or for fighting if you understand how they're done. Now, on another subject, so some schools, in terms of the energy cultivation, some of it is taught together with the combat, and it goes hand in hand. So, for example, like in an art like Sarak, you have things that are both hard and soft, and some teachers I know would express it like, oh, well, we're expressing the Chimande part. And then if they're expressing the soft part, is, oh, we're expressing the Chikalong part. This is partially true, but it's also not, because Chimande can also be very soft and fluid. It doesn't have to be necessarily hard. And Chikalong can be also very hard or fluid. Every part of the art can have a yin and yang, okay? But my point with this is that you can have teachers that teach methods of energy cultivation separate from the combat or together with the combative training. And some teachers will teach you, for example, to visualize or to use your breath or to very subtly manipulate the intent and the energy as you're training. And then you have other teachers that will teach you a softer way where the energy arises on its own. You don't force anything. You don't try to make anything happen. You just train and train your ass off. And then naturally things start manifesting and happening because of the training. Okay, so I've had teachers that do both, some that really focus the energy as you're doing your energy cultivation, both seated or standing or in combat with partners. And then I have other teachers that they do things more naturally. And this, you can see the influence of schools that were probably derived from Shaolin, from Taoist, from Wudang, and then schools that were derived, and even in Indonesia, from different methods. The harder styles, you can see it influenced by harder southern styles of Kuntao, southern Chinese arts. And then the softer ones, you can see them influenced by things that came from Taoist priests and Taoist monks that migrated to Indonesia. There's a very, very hidden gem inside Silat, okay? And I'll try to explain that to you. We'll go back historically. Pencak Silat, at one time, you first had the nomadic people of China, the Hakka people, okay? They started influencing those islands with their arts, which is the Kuntao. And then you also had the primitive, I don't want to say primitive, but tribal, indigenous people of Indonesia. They had their own form of warfare and combat and healing and shamanism. These two things merged, okay? So a lot of the ancestral fist or ancestral martial kung fus or kuntaos from the Hakka people merged with the indigenous tribal people of Indonesia. Okay, in ancient times they were all one people. All right, then this started occurring. Okay, and then you also had an empire, the Majapahit Empire, which connected all of Indonesia all the way up to even Tibet. Okay, so it was a big empire, and at this time the martial art of the warriors was all one art, and that art probably looked something like Silat and Muay Thai and very aggressive Kung Fu combined as one. Okay, then later you had the Sriwijaya Empire, which is another empire from Indonesia, and there you probably had more influence from the Hindu Vedic martial systems like Kalari Prayat. So my point is, Indonesia has been a melting pot of martial disciplines and martial arts. Then later on you had the influence of the Persians and the Moors and the Muslim coming into Indonesia. At the same time, you had trading from South Africa into Indonesia as well, which is why you see like the Sumatran movements are also very similar to the Capoeira and Angola movements of Africa, which later you see them in Brazil. The wrestling, the gulat that you see in Indonesia is very similar to the Indian wrestling and the old jiu-jitsu in Japan. So Indonesia was always a melting pot of martial science. And once the Muslims came in, okay, there were these 9 saints, okay, they would call them the Wali Songo. The 9 saints were it could be mythical, it could be real. I do believe it's true because they have the grave sites of these people. There was 9 of them, and they were combination of Indonesian, Chinese Indonesian, Hindu, Indian Indonesian, and Arabic. They were mixed breeds, you know. And these people were very, very skilled and trained in martial science, healing science, spirituality, energy cultivation, and what we now know as Sufism. Okay, Sufism is a very esoteric part of Islam, and these Wali Songo brought over many secrets from the Silk Road into Indonesia. And actually, when the Muslims came into Indonesia, they didn't conquer Indonesia through war. They did it peacefully. And I believe that it was the Wali Songo that influenced the people to convert to Islam peacefully. And they did it by showing what they had, you know. And so a lot of Silat schools were influenced by these Wali Songo. In fact, one Chimande lineage that I was taught from, the master of that lineage goes back to one of the Wali Songos. Okay, and they brought with them a style, what they called the Prophet's Fist, which is a type of very aggressive handwork and pukulan, very energy, very strong. The way I've seen it, and it looks to me very similar to things you see in Wing Chun and similar things that I've seen in Sarak. Very hard hitting that you see in Chimande, and it became part of Chimande. And this method, supposedly they brought it from Persia. So it probably came from old Persian martial art, which probably was old Egyptian martial art at one time. Because the Sufis believe that actually Sufism predated Islam. So if that's the case, then it came somewhere from the Middle East, from Persia, Iraq, ancient Sumeria, ancient Egypt, and then that found its way into Indonesian Silat. So anyhow, there's all these methods to build energy, and some schools in Indonesia, they maintain still the Arabic prayers and the Arabic methods of sacred geometry while they're doing their movements. And supposedly the jurus are an alphabet. So it's like each juru is a posture that energetically transfers an awareness and alignment into the practitioner. And the jurus put together spell words, okay? Which is very interesting to me because, like, for example, the Dutch, they say spell is to fight, and Pendecker Paul de Toires used to say, when you do the jurus, you're creating sentences. Okay, so this knowledge is like sprinkled across all the Silats, but maybe some Silat teachers didn't know the whole history, or maybe they did and they keep it secret, right? So supposedly the jurus are an alphabet, and that alphabet, according to some schools, comes from an old sacred lettering, which they use just like yoga, like postures, to activate energy in the arms, activate energy in the body. Okay, and the same thing goes with the Kuda Kuda. The Kuda Kuda is also like an alphabet, and also like a yoga training where you hold the postures for extended amount of time to gently force open energy channels and to strengthen the tendons and to strengthen the alignment of the body, the structural alignment, to align the bones in such a way that you can transfer power or receive power without getting hurt. And what do I mean by power? For example, you're fighting somebody bigger than you, stronger than you. They hit you, but it doesn't affect you because you can take that kinetic force and channel it down into the earth without it hurting your body too much. At the same token, you can give that energy back, which is what you see in Tai Chi, which is what you see in the Silat systems, where they dissolve the center and then they fortify the center. So anyhow, these methods you have Chinese methods, you have Buddhist methods, Taoist methods, native methods from the native people, and then you have these Islamic, ancient Sumerian, ancient Persian, Iraq, ancient Egyptian methods that found their way into Silat. Some Silat schools merged all those things. Some of them didn't. Some of them keep it separate, and some of them keep it very hidden. So you never know. You think you're just learning a sapu, a beset, a technique, a Buddha Kapala, whatever technique you do, a throw, a takedown. But really, what you want to develop in your Silat is the perfect posture, the perfect alignment, the perfect ability to generate force, generate power, or to receive, to dissolve and receive, and to give back. So these are things that are very hidden in your Silat. They're in Sarak, they're in Old Chimande, they're in all the old Silats. They're very much in the old Sumatran arts as well. The Sumatran systems that have the Kuda Kuda and have these things were very influenced by the old Shaolin Lohan postures, the old monk postures, okay? And that's where they got the postures of the tiger, the eagle, and the snake, and the crane, and things like this. It's very interesting that you look at the timeline. Harimau, one of the biggest lineages, started to develop in the 1400s. Chimande started in the 1600s. Sarak around the 1800s. So they're not very old per se, but prior to that, these people were practicing ancient arts that later were given these names in the 1400s, 1500s, 1600s, etc., etc. And they all have a method of energy cultivation for fighting, for protecting your body, strengthening your body, physicalizing your body to make it stronger, and physicalizing the energy, the chi, whatever you want to call it. And then they also all have a method for healing and a method for meditation, for spiritual awareness, for developing into a better human, integrated with mind, body, and spirit. Anyhow, I hope that helps. If you liked the video, please click like, share it with your friends, and hopefully I'll see you in training one day.